Hello, clinical case Sarah Erotomania. Description: a fragile, pretty young woman, Sarah, 36 years old, comes for my consultation. Every time she arrives in my cabinet, she asks me to turn on or to switch off the air conditioner. The temperature in my office is never good enough for her. I carry out all those untypical maneuvers for a good psychoanalyst who wishes to keep constantly on her place immutable. However, how not to concede to a demand? Yes, this patient has a demand with a capital D, a demand for drive satisfaction, which slows down the work for which she comes. And I asked myself, what should I do? And then I decided that why not to consider those repetitive demands while exploring the specificity of her structure. I theoretically rely in my working hypothesis on a belief which she doesn't abandon. She claims to have had a miscarriage without noticing it, that she has lost a baby even without being aware of it. Her periods are regular, and the gynecologist said that there was no possible trace of pregnancy. She entered into analytical work through a request to be accepted with her hallucinations, with hesitations, complaints, and very quickly she finds out that she feels better, in fact, much better. She quickly found a job and says that she has been transformed. A miracle? Certainly not. There is no magic. Things will get much more complicated and unveiled in a brand new light. A quote: I found a new job. Now I will be working at TV. The young woman said to me one day, being proud of this progress. And then, with a slightly aggressive laugh, she added, I think that the news anchor is so in love with me, that's why he chose me among many other candidates for the post of his assistant, and now I will be working next to him. She talks about a public figure, a news anchor, who she had seen only on TV and who she thought was in love with her. So she decided to apply for the vacant post at his channel and stay close to him. Considering her journalistic background, she was a good asset to a team. A quote: I was selected by him because he lives a powerful passion for me. So far, this relation is secretive because he needs to prepare thousands of his admirers before he can make our relations public. He has gone mad for me. I can feel his ardor. He wants me to stay closer to him because he loves me, he wants me. Obviously, she's pretty and it's probably nice to have such a nice and charming person close by. Why not? However, there is something which reminds me of erotomania, and this sentiment of love will now navigate between her analyst and the TV man, the way she calls him. A quote: I come back to see you because you are on my side. I can feel that you understand that this man loves me. She explains to me that she regularly goes to the floor where he works, enters his space under any bizarre pretext, to say the least. It is clear that she harasses him, and she could wait for him in front of his office, then in front of the windows of the building where he lives. She chases him down the street, then she follows him into his apartment and then asks me, I quote, do you think he recognized me? I did so just to surprise him. That's why I was walking in the same direction as him. Her friends were puzzled by the turn the events took. The situation became worrying. Finally, they advised her to confess her feelings to the man to make things perfectly clear, which was very rational. She was delighted by this perspective. A quote: I think it's a good idea to face this issue directly with him. to talk with him about his love for me, which he doesn't dare to confess. I'll tell him that I know everything and that it is no longer possible to hide this passion. Yes, he loves me. Otherwise, why would he have chosen me for this post? I advised her to wait a little bit, which provoked unexpected anger. She broke down furiously, a vase on my table became uncontrollable, threatened me, saying that she could become violent and that it's better not to play with her feelings. She followed her friend's advice and spoke to this man because everything needs to be clarified, everything needs to be crystal clear. Sarah made statement to him for the first time, then she repeated it and insisted on it. She heard nothing of the answer which this man gave her. She claimed that she had noticed his passion for her since the first day they saw each other, since he hired her. He was cautious and surely suspected that something was wrong with her. He replied that he had a wife and children, and he assured her of his friendship, which was a very good tactic from his side. He was not offended by the situation. On the contrary, he demonstrated astonishing patience and resilience. During one of the sessions, she confided to me a quote: "This man is just like you. He loves me." She continued to be convinced that they would be living unforgettable moments together and that it was imminent. A quote: "The way he talks to me shows that he wants to be with me forever." Reason for therapy: miscarriage, which occurred without her noticing it, and this worried her. Diagnosis: psychosis, erotomania, non-elaborated mourning about her dead sister. Symptoms: she had a fixed idea that she had lost a baby, a point which was returning and insisting, and it presented the signs of mourning for this child whom she could have had and who is not there. However, another recent mourning, that of her younger sister who had died in a terrible car accident, barely mentioned, was never worked out. She said that her sister was like her child. I insisted very gently, without questioning, like your child. A strong emotion overwhelmed her and she burst into tears. A quote: "Like this child who I lost some months ago." Anamnesis: no running mental illness in the family. Self-awareness: not fully aware of the surrounding reality and her own feelings. Request: help to overcome the anxiety. About family: she was married with one kid. Her husband didn't believe that she had a miscarriage. The marriage life has always been very problematic for this patient. It carries out particular destructive aspects. About the other: it was crucial for her to know that she was loved rather than that she loved. The other wants something from me. The love would be the trap through which the risk of disubjectivation appeared. The patient claimed, believed, and considered herself wanted, desired, and loved, in brief, invested by the object, the TV man, while putting aside the question whether the TV man shared this love. In erotomaniac delirium, it is the object and only the object which looked for the subject. It was the object that showed its admiration and interest and was at the origin of the created situation. About relation to object: her object was identified and fixed, the TV man. It is beyond the desire that the object is located, somewhere on the edge of need and desire. About relation to body: the body was the scene where the symptom, a hypothetical miscarriage, was playing out. About transfer. The transfer has passed through the periods of big love and enormous hatred towards analyst. Every time her plans were falling apart, her hatred was falling on me. She was claiming that I was incapable. So I asked her why was she continuing the sessions. She said, I quote, "I think the analysis will help me to live with my TV man, and I know that you find good qualities in me, which is sometimes pleasant to hear, even if it's not true. You don't talk much, but I feel that you think it's possible that someone may be in love with me." I confirm that I think she can be loved and that she is potentially lovable by a man, of course. She was happy with this ambiguous answer. Working with her, as with any psychosis, it was very important to desire personally to work with her as a subject. It is true that an analyst should assume a certain desire to cure and support it in front of the patient's movements. The analyst in the psychosis has an interest in taking the place of a little other to advance the cure, since the psychotic patient is already under pressure from someone who presents for him the big other and who suffocates and threatens him, the other who cannot manage to complete. I was not asking her many questions, if asking any at all. Clerambault said that such patients should not be questioned, and I agree. The erotomaniac relation is what takes place in basic transfer, in the sense of Catherine Parat. The erotomaniac basic transfer is xenopathy. The analyst should remain attentive not only to what he or she says, but also to what he or she doesn't say. About dreams. One of her dreams is that this man from TV was confessing his love to her in coded messages during his emissions. Clinical picture. For this woman, it is the question of paternity that poses the problem, since it is a question of maintaining and noting of different paternal instances, real, symbolic, and imaginary, by an ideal projected outside. On the other hand, there is the mourning of the hypothetical child, which is particularly difficult because this absence of state of pregnancy removes the hope that one day there will be the father and that she will cease to be the phallus and will have the phallus. And on the other hand, the impossibility of confronting the castration of the mother, her body coming in a place of maternal appendage. Their delirium remains to promise a future, to maintain the interval with the aspiring real and the thrill which was not symbolized. I get the impression that her weak questions, what is a woman and what is a father, have come up for her in a very particular way, because having a child presents an answer to the question, what is a woman, which for her would not be so much from her maternal status, but from a pregnant woman who has a child in her womb. However, her husband slips from this place, the place of a father from whom the symbolic phallus is somehow expected. The erotomaniac position is an antidepressive position. It is also that of unresolved conflict. In order to exist, we must lose the object. Without it, we will not and cannot exist. Analytical work. The analysis has been lasting for more than 5 years. She's coming to see me less and less now, often saying that I'm not someone objective, that she sees that I love her too much. Is she taking a distance with the delirium? I have never before introduced a doubt about her love of the TV man, from where she draws her strength and life. My function has been to position myself strongly on the side of the subject, not to break delirium, this last support of life. As Clerambault noted so brilliantly, it is necessary to advance with the dialogue, apparently diffuse but marked with the centers for the ideas. We must bring the subject to a state of mind in which he will be ready to monologue and discuss, where our tactic will be to keep silent or to contradict just enough so that not to seem to understand everything, but in fact to understand everything. I was keeping an attitude of benevolent neutrality, not taking the place of the one who would know better than her that this love is as crazy as complicated, since the destabilization of the place from which she was speaking could have had disastrous repercussions. I neither affirm nor confirm her beliefs, especially an analyst shouldn't touch the delirium. This delirium is the only thing that saves her from the pit that has opened in front of her. She tries to get out of it and to maintain a father so that to make him fall afterwards. However, the symbolic murder is not accomplished. The father remains indestructible. The work will go in this direction. Will she be able to give up the hatred that she feels for the father of her children? The psychoanalytic approach in this case had to pass through the questioning on the side of the patient: what is the analyst's object, the object of the object? An interrogation which undoubtedly, from a certain point of view, is the only inaugural of authentic psychoanalytical work. What helped? There is something in which psychoanalysis had been effective, despite the slow progress. First of all, the analytical work, the interest that she gradually finds in talking about herself, her trauma, and to analyze her dreams, which will eventually build the vital distance from what she calls the TV man. I then ask her to tell her dreams, her lapses, her doubts, her joys, to take interest in herself. Secondly, she was offered a space for unfolding and deploying her words and sufferings. Thirdly, a transfer which led to a significant drop in delusional activity. In the healing attempt, the patient has found a second field, a transfer, which could be called a substitutional object, which coexists more or less with the delirious objects, TV man, the latter being progressively less invested. Fourth, building a capacity for a dialogue which is no longer on the continuous thread of rupture which has led to the regular psychoanalytical sessions. Changes which happened during the analysis. First of all, she managed to put on hold her drives, not to act, not to assault these men at times when her love turned into hatred, not to suicide, not to attack her analyst either, which also came up from time to time as a possibility. The analysis allowed her to go through a period of mourning, to pass a delirious moment while buffering its destructive effect. Second, over time she started telling me more and more about herself and less about the TV man. She managed to find some of her old friendship, to change the workplace, to move away from the TV channel where that news anchor who was supposedly in love with her working. Sarah realized that that possession of which she was the object was a pure illusion, and that her love was also an illusion, and that she was wrong.